we're segueing from Aaron's importance of devotions into how to do devotions. And what I'm going to go through is something called the 6 key points on how to read the Bible. So I actually get this from a place called Desiring God. It's from a guy named John Piper. He's a really good preacher, really good pastor, and he's just really, really good at instructionals. And so I'm going to be taking those 6 key points, but the difference that I'm going to be making from those 6 key points is that we're going to go through a passage that that he doesn't go through, but I will go through with you guys. And I'm going to actually let you do that, after I bring up the 6 key points and I explain or try to explain most of them. And so we're going to try to change it up. I remember there was a request to bring back worksheets. Kind of gets you in the mental game, kind of gets you to just kind of write stuff down. There you go. And it also just allows you to reinforce and look back on what you wrote down. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, give one to Austin also. Thank you. Oh. All right. All right. So point number 1. Okay. I'll write this down. The Bible argues. Okay? So that's key. That's key point number 1. The Bible argues. And so what that means is the Bible gives reasons or arguments for what it teaches. So if you recall from Sunday schools, years and years and years, decades past, there was, do you guys remember Eugene? Yeah, right? He was probably you guys' first youth pastor. Well, maybe not. Maybe it was Matt. But in any case, Eugene used to always say that the Bible is offensive, right? And where did he get that from? He got that actually from a man named John MacArthur, because John MacArthur, and I believe he went to Master's Seminary, Eugene. John MacArthur used to say that all the time. The Bible is offensive. And so if you really think about it and you kind of just, in your head, you think about the gospel message, it's an offensive message, right, to people, because what does it tell people? It says that you're a sinner and that you basically cannot save yourself. There was no way for you to have done that. So Jesus had to come down and be that sacrifice for basically the sins of his people. And, it's really direct. That's kind of the point. You're a sinner, right? You're a sinner. And you couldn't have saved yourself, right? And so God had to do something about it. So all of this is to say that we're kind of just, we weren't worthy enough spiritually to actually be of worth, and that's quite offensive, that is offensive. People are going to be wait, whoa, what about what I've done for, for charities? What about what I've done for my family? Elon Musk might say look at what I've done with electronic vehicles, and sending stuff into space, things like that. Or LeBron might say, look at what I've done for basketball, So a lot of people will have these earthly deeds that are great. But at the end of the day, it's still the same story. They can't save themselves spiritually. So it is offensive, right? And because the message is offensive enough, you don't have to dig that point too hard. I think everyone kind of understands that they're not perfect, that they are sinful, that there are certain things in this world that even they're not capable of doing. Like, who made the sun? Who made the stars? Not one person, one man, was able to probably make this building, right? They had to be people that planned it. There had to be people that drew up the instructional, structural points to the building. Then a lot of people had to construct it. So not one man can do everything himself, right? And so everyone kind of just, they understand that. So what the point is that the Bible argues, but we can speak the truth, but we can just do it graciously, you know? So that was what we just went through with gentle and lowly, right? Jesus, even though being God, knew everything. He could do anything, you know? Some things were kept out of his knowledge because God did not allow him to know at that point in time. But nevertheless, at that moment, at least from what was, you know, visible to him and given to him as knowledge, he knew. So probably the best carpenter you could ever get, right? And he probably made all the best things, like, man, like this birdhouse never breaks, you know, stuff like that. I don't know if he ever made them, but, you know, it's just kind of a point, though, you know? But yeah, but nevertheless, he was still so gracious. Like, if you think about the rich young ruler, when he's like, teacher, you know, what else can I do to go to heaven? I do this, I do this, I do this. But, like, what else can I do, you know? He wasn't just like, dude, like, you're not going to heaven, go away, you know? Like, he was like, well, you know, I see that you earnestly want to know, so how about this? Sell all your stuff, give it away, and come follow me, right? And the rich young ruler is like, you know, in his mind, he's like, oh man, like I got a lot of stuff, you know, like I got a lot of property, I got this and that. I don't know if I want to do that, you know. So, like, but he earnestly wanted to know, right? And so that's kind of the point Jesus is trying to make, or Jesus is making, like, or that's kind of the point the Bible is making. Jesus is gentle and lowly. If you really want to understand him, you really want to get to know him, he's not going to deny you. But he knows the hearts of the Pharisees, and he knows they're not going to change, and that's why he has a very different response for them. And so, even though the Bible argues, we can speak the truth graciously, and, you know, that should be enough. So if you look on there, Matthew 10, 16 to 23 is going to be the verse. What I'm going to do is we'll go through the lesson first, and then you'll answer the questions, and you'll read the passage and answer the questions. So let's move on to point 2. Okay. So point 2 is that a Bible's... Ooh, that was bad. Units of thought or passage contains a main point. So, when you go to school, how do you guys write essays, right? Everyone. What is the essay supposed to have? Anyone can say it. Anyone can say it.
A thesis.
A thesis, yes. And what is a thesis, really? Your main point, your main idea of the entire paper. Exactly. And so, when you think about the Bible, it's not much different. When you go through a passage, or sometimes called a unit of thought, you know, or sometimes even better, there's like a subheading, right? Subheading. There's going to be a main point to that passage. It's not very much different than the essays that you write, because, you know, good writers should have a main point, right? They should have something that they're trying to drive across. And so, always look for the main point in everything that you read. Because if you just read it and you read it and you read it, and then you're just looking through paragraphs and you're just like, okay, that was cool. Like, you're not going to learn anything from that, right? You're just going to be like, okay, that was a story. All right, nice. Moving on, But if you look for the main point of that passage, then it kind of sticks out to you. You're like, okay, so that is what the author is trying to tell me. That's what he's trying to get me to understand and get me to apply to my life, One of the things about the Bible is that it's not all of the passages in context relate to us, right, as the audience, because during that time there's a different audience. So that's something that you're going to have to kind of decipher, and that's actually in the first point underneath those questions. That's going to be one of the questions there. So when you figure out who it's meant for, then you can kind of see, okay, so where is the context in history? And if it's to them, okay, well, if it's to them, then can it apply to me too, Because some things are central truths, right? Like, for instance, something that's just like, that's true, right? Like the sun and the moon, what does the moon do? The moon reflects the sunlight, right, at night. So that's something that's always true. Like, I don't have to like apply that to my life, but I know that that's true. How do I apply that though? It's like, okay, well, knowing what I know, that means that the moon gives light somehow too, indirectly. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then it just goes on to science and other things. And, like, there's like a point there, right? That the sun and the moon are related in that sense. And it was just like astronomically, cosmically caused, right? Maybe it's random, but I don't think it's random, right? I think that it was very much supposed to be that way. And so that, like, for me, the main point is, hey, God did that, And so that's something that's applicable. That's a truth for me. And so, yeah. Let's go on to point 3. Because that's where it leads into. Whenever you see a main point, there's going to be an argument. So, to truly, this is going to run out of space real fast, understand a passage, we must figure out if I go underneath here, how the arguments support the main point. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Anyone else need a paper? Oh, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. So one of the things here is that, just like an essay, right? Just the same thing, like where you get those paragraphs. The whole thing of that essay, the whole thing of that paragraph should be to drive across what that main point is going to be. So all of those arguments, all of those sentences are going to help out that main point and be like, boom, this is what exists, boom, this is what I'm saying, this is what I'm trying to get across, and here are the reasons why. And so usually what's going to happen is that there's going to be one main point and then either one or more subpoints or arguments that support it. And so always look out for that whenever you're reading like just a paragraph or a passage from the Bible. It's going to enrich your reading because it's going to be more intentional. If you're reading just to read, just to be done with it, you're not going to usually enrich yourself with that, right? You kind of have to look at it and see like, oh, does this argument make sense to me? Oh, is there a main point to why he's writing this, you know? And so that's a little bit of what we're going to do. So always take a good look and just immerse yourself in it and see what you can get from it. The key, what's it called? I think in point number 2, there's a really good hint for the key words there. And so always look out for like but, so, therefore, however. Those are kind of key words to figure out in the Bible, like what is this passage trying to argue? What is it trying to convey? What's the main point? Therefore and so are usually the main points, you know, or even however. But is usually an argument, or it can be the main point as well. So it's just like little things that you can do to kind of figure out, okay, where's it trying to go? Where is it leading me? All right, and this leads into our 4th point. Jesus assumes that truth affects our emotions. And so the main question I have there is, what is truth? Okay? And that's something that you're going to have to answer for yourself. I don't want to tell you what it is. I don't want to tell you what I believe is the truth. I want you guys to kind of figure out, what is the truth to you? What do you guys define as truth? Okay? Because that is going to shape exactly what Jesus says or assumes, and that is what affects our emotions, you know. And I'll give a little bit of something like, let's talk about anxiety, right? Anxiety. Do you guys think anxiety is like an active decision? Is it something like, do you go, I think I want to be anxious today? Who says yes? Who says no? Let's see it at a show of hands. Who says yes? Oh, I want to be anxious. Oh, really? Oh, Aaron. Okay. All right, Aaron. All right. Why is it that you think that it's an active decision?
You can just choose not to be anxious.
All right. Respectable. Who says no? Like, it's not something that you choose to do, like anxiety, right? Okay. So I think most people would say no. I would be inclined to agree that, yes, anxiety is not something that you choose. Aaron, I think that you have a very strong mind, though, like, right? So, honestly, like, if you can actually get yourself out of that, that's actually a really good thing. Because, yeah, anxiety is something that hits you out of nowhere. And a good point that Gabe once made about anxiety in the Bible is, nowhere in the Bible is anxiety a good thing. It always comes out of nowhere and it hits you, and it's just something that kind of just is thrust upon you and you feel bad about it. So it's not a good thing. It's not like one of those things where people say, oh, the anxiousness is good because it means that you're feeling, you know, or it means you got a gut feeling. And it's like, I see what you're getting at. Like, yeah, like it shows that you're quote unquote alive, but it's never a good feeling to be anxious because that means that you're nervous, you're fearful. There's something in it that is causing you to feel bad. And so in the Bible, whenever you see anxiety, it's a bad thing, right? That's not to say that we're not human, so we'll all feel that feeling. But truth does affect your emotions. So how can you snap back out of that, right? That's something I want you guys to think about. How do you snap out of that anxiety? Because you don't want to feel that, right? And as you'll see in these verses later, Jesus does attack anxiety, and, you know, he does tell his disciples certain things. May have given you an answer right there in like point 1, but, you know. Just a little. But this also, because we're talking about emotions, it leads to point 5. Truth affects our emotions when it is believed. And I think this is where Aaron hits the mark, right? It leads into this. Now, when your version of the truth, or when you understand the truth, your emotions will be kind of like affected by what you believe. So I think that's what Aaron was trying to say. Like, you could just tell yourself not to feel that way. And in a sense, yeah, it is true. Like, it's a snap back to reality, right? And so this is going to play a big factor because, I know that most people probably aren't going to be like Aaron. They're going to probably feel like, well, that doesn't really work for me, If I hear the truth, it doesn't have like an emotional effect on me. It doesn't take away my anxiety. But that's what leads us into the next point. Faith, right? It's going to be something about faith. And what about faith that we need to do? Well, point 6. We need to pray for faith. And meditate on his truth. And so that's kind of what will lead you into having a little less anxiety or snapping back into that faith. It's when you pray for it and you really, really meditate and think about it. Because when you meditate and you think about it, like, all your anxiety is taken away once you realize that, oh, God has everything in control. It doesn't necessarily help at that moment because it's like, oh, I'm feeling bad, Like, there's a lot of stuff that can hurt you. There's a lot of things that can cause anxiety. But when you think back on God and his promises and you know that they're true, that does affect your mindset in the long run. And so that's something that, I want to make sure that all of you guys kind of understand. So with that being said, though, what we're going to do with a little bit of the time that we have, I'm going to give you about 25 minutes. With all the points that you have, go ahead and answer those questions after reading Matthew 10:16-23. So I want you guys to kind of practice that now, the key points. Oh yeah, if you need Bibles, they are on the shelf over there as well. Oh yeah. Matthew 10:16-23. I will say, I think the main point of this one could be a little difficult to decipher or bring out, but again, look for the keywords. The keywords are going to be your big factor. Also, look at the subheading. The subheading is going to be a little helpful as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer the questions. All right, I'm going to start it. Here we go. Isaac, answer me number 1. What is the passage about? No, not from your friend's paper. What do you think this passage is about? Did you read it? You knew this was going to happen. Come on.
About persecutions predicted.
Okay.
He was sending his disciples out into the world, and they are sinful, and they're trying to persecute them.
Who is sinful? Wait. Who is sinful?
I mean, everybody is. Yeah.
All right. Well, you got some of it, right? So you got the main parts. The passage is about how hard it will be to follow Jesus, and yes, it is to the 12 disciples. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you can choose who to answer the next question now. Question 2: Who was it meant for? Yeah, you get to pick anyone. Huh?
I don't know.
Just pick anyone. Be the person next to you. Okay, Aaron. Who is it meant for?
Like the 12 disciples.
Yep, just like that. Exactly. So, question number 3. Go ahead and choose someone to answer that one. Who? Ian. Okay. Ian.
But you guys should go quiet because there's still like unreached areas, so it's like our job to spread the word.
Okay. And also, will you face persecution?
Maybe not as rough as it was back then,
Uh-huh.
but it'll still be like hard trying to like bring your point across.
Yeah. Good. All right. Go ahead and choose the next person. You can choose a girl this time.
Marianne.
All right, Marianne. Question number 4. You may have to draw some inferences from this chapter, but why do you think that men will hand them over to the courts, and why would brother betray brother and parents their children?
Basically the one about having an emergency course. It's like most people don't really want to hear what they get paid, and so they'll be like really against it and not want to believe and turn away.
Yeah.
Like even if you're like blood related or whatever, and you're like siblings, you're still human. You can't really be like, I don't know how to say it, but you'll still put yourself before them, even if you're still siblings or your parents.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And about the gospel message, is it a message that is easy to hear?
For some people, probably not.
Yeah.
Because of maybe their background or something.
Yeah, exactly. Some people's like, you don't know what they've been through, right? Like you don't know their experiences. And so the gospel message it's offensive to people sometimes, telling someone that they're a sinner, right? And so this inevitably you can see that the message might come across as offensive to people, and that's why a lot of times, they'll hand you over to the courts, and parents will be against parents or children, and children against parents and stuff like that. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Go ahead and choose someone else to answer a question. The next one. Oh, Lucy. Thank you. All right. Using the passage above, what is the main point of those verses? This one might be a little difficult, so I'll help you if you need it. Okay. I think that is a very, very good sub point. Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good sub. That's a really good, like, when I read it the first time too, I definitely thought that was, yeah. Let's see. So what is the heading of the title? The heading of the passage. Oh, in your Bible, does it have like a header? Yes. Okay. And so, if persecution will come, what will you have to do aside from enduring? Because enduring is a part of it. It is, yeah. What Bible do you have, by the way? ESV. ESV? Okay, perfect. In verse, where is it? In verse 16, do you see one of the key words there? No, the key words from the question. So, yeah. So what comes after that?
Be wise.
Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So what do you think that means?
Be wise.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this one's a little, this is a harder question. So the main point of this passage is that, yes, persecution will come. And so you're going to have to be wise in your words and what you say to people, but also as gentle, because, again, the gospel message is offensive, right? And so be wise with your words, but be gentle. So that doesn't mean don't speak the truth, but just know how to speak to people gently, kind of like Jesus is gentle and lowly, right? And so it all comes back to this. Persecution is going to come. You're going to be ridiculed, or people are not going to want to hear it, stuff like that. Like, that's inevitably going to happen. Like, it's going to happen a lot, or your parents don't want to hear what you have to say. Your brothers and sisters don't want to hear it, stuff like that. But nevertheless, don't be like, you're dumb, why don't you just believe? Like, why are you, like those guys with those picket signs outside of, like, at rallies, like, it's like, you're going to hell, you're doing this. Like, it's like, that's not gentle. That's not wise, What are you trying to do? Like, are you trying to spark someone to come over and then, like, kind of beat you up? Like, is that what you're trying to do? That's not the point. That's not what Jesus even did, right? He didn't say, like, he really didn't do that. He didn't put up a picket fence, and he didn't go outside of, like, courts and buildings and just be like, you guys are sinners. You guys are going to hell. When did he say those things? It's when the Pharisees challenged him. They were the ones that instigated him and like, how do we trip this guy up? Like, what are we going to say to get this guy to be like, he doesn't know his answers, like that kind of thing. It was at that point, then the Pharisees are like, or then Jesus is like, yo, like, you can't just say that, like, look, man, I'm gonna stump you on your own stuff, and not to mention, I'm gonna show you what your heart is like, So he drops the mic on them, but he never once just, like, does it first, When he flips the tables, what is he doing? Like, what happened before that? They were selling, right? They were bribing. They were selling things at the place of worship. It wasn't just like he just came over and be like, like just an act of anger, just boom. And hey, Aaron and Daniel, I don't know what you guys are doing, but stop, poking each other. But all that to say, right, is be wise and be innocent, right? Be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. So the imagery there is like serpents are very cunning, very, very intentional about their actions, right? They kind of just like go back and forth, and then they strike really fast, And it's always intentional. It's a strike to kill their target or to paralyze their target and then eat it. And serpents are considered cunning and wise because of their very intentional, like their intention as hunters. And so that's why you want to be wise as them. And innocent as doves. Doves are generally just regarded as very pure, very, very gentle, very like. That's why it's in the story of Noah, it's the one bringing the olive branch, right? It's bringing peace. It's bringing a message of goodness, and so you want to be gentle in that regard, because the message that you're bringing is not going to be accepted by everyone, and a lot of people might be like, "Whoa, who are you calling a sinner?" Like, how dare you call me a sinner? Like, not everyone's going to like that, I think no one likes that in the beginning, but once you understand the truth, you accept it, and it affects your lives. So Lucy, go ahead and choose. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for giving your answer. Go ahead and choose another person to answer the next question. Might have to help out with that one too. But Oh, all right. Dylan.
You want the question with the 3 arguments?
Yep, list the 3 arguments that back up the main point you identified above. Ooh, so this is going to depend on your main point that you wrote. Yeah.
Okay, so my main point was that it was instructing us followers on how to deal with persecution.
Okay. Yeah.
And the verses that I listed that supported that point were Matthew 10, verse 16,
Mm-hmm.
verse 17, and verse 20.
Okay, go ahead and list out those, or read them out for us, those verses. But that's a really good main point, because that's pretty much spot on. Yeah, very nice.
So verse 16 says, I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves.
Mm.
So here he, he's telling us how to be shrewd and innocent. And then verse 17 says, be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. So he's kind of warning us.
Yeah.
And then in verse 20 it says, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you.
Yeah, good. All right, I like it. Very nice. Go ahead and choose the next person.
Micah.
I didn't completely answer this.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Is there a reason why you didn't? You don't have to tell if it's
I
first
don't
one.
know how to answer
You don't have, okay.
Is it just preaching the gospel?
No, what do you think is truth? What do you define as truth? What does Micah define as truth?
Like the word truth?
Just the word truth,
Oh.
exactly, yeah. Is it facts? Is it, arguments? Is it, what else could it be?
Just fact?
Yeah, reasons Okay, so you define truth as just the facts, right? What about, I guess, let's see. I probably did not do this question very good. But do you define truth both in the world and in religion kind of one and the same, or are they different? Do you kind of separate them? Are there 2 different truths in your life when you think about it? What you might believe in the world is different than what you might find in the Bible. You be truthful about it. Yeah. Truth. Yeah, sorry.
I'm not sure.
Okay. It's more of a hypothetical, a little philosophical, But yeah, I think generally speaking though, I think you're right. Yeah, it's the facts, the reasons, the arguments that kind of affect or influence what you believe, right? That's what truth is. And I think, yeah, just facts, you know? So, yeah, I mean, this was kind of a very general question. I didn't really structure it very well. Sorry about that. But yeah, go ahead and choose someone else to answer that next question.
So that question, I wrote 9.
Number 5?
You.
You wrote, what was that?
No.
None? Oh, you should have no fear. Yeah. Nice. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I think it was very straightforward, very direct. I'm going to insert a short story. So, I don't know if you guys remember me from like years, like decades ago. Some of you guys might, but not everyone. Like when I was teaching you guys like 7th and 8th grade, I think like all you guys kind of, or a lot of you guys probably remember I was like kind of fat, right? Like I was pretty overweight, you know? Yeah. No, my girlfriend he calls it the fat boy complex because like her best friend, like her husband is like that, and now I'm like I was like that. So we used to be really like overweight, you know, and yeah, actually like it was there's a little more backstory to that. It's not just like one day I was like, oh hey, you just lost weight, and dang, like that's a lot of weight that he lost. Actually, I used to have a really like bad bout with heartburn back in those days, and so what happened was I wouldn't be able to eat the things that I liked because it would just like boom, acid would go up, and I'm like, oh, this is like I'm feeling a heart attack, you know, like it's kind of crazy, and so like, you know, it felt pretty bad back then. It was like, dude, like, why did God abandon me? You know, like, what did I do? Like, I want to enjoy my life. I want to eat all this good food, you know? I want to go to buffets every week like I used to, you know, like stuff like that. And so, like, I would get jealous of people, right? Like, because they were eating what they wanted, but then I wouldn't be able to eat that. Like, even eating an orange would cause acid reflux. And it's just like, dude, I thought oranges were healthy, you know? And so I wanted to eat all those kinds of foods, but then I'm like, okay, no, I can't trigger the heartburn. So, you know, it just sucked. But there's a moral of the story there, right? Like even if God didn't heal me of that, and I had to continue with that crazy diet that I used to just eat bland food like chicken breast, broccoli, and like quinoa and stuff like that, like it's fine, you know? Like the main point was for me to be discerning and disciplined, okay? And God wanted me to fight that sin of gluttony, you know, and I'm thankful for that because not everyone gets that chance. You see a lot of these people that are 300, 400 pound plus, and it's like, it's not muscle, right? It's not like they're NFL players or anything like that, but they're very big, and it's very sad, you know. I'm sure they don't want to feel like that, you know. They don't want to like carry around that weight. It's not good for your joints. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your heart, at the very least, you know. But at the same time, I had to fight my desire to please myself because I wanted to eat whatever I wanted to eat. But as a result of that, like, you know, having that discipline, not eating whatever I wanted to eat all the time, I was able to lose that 50 pounds and then keep it off. And so, you know, not everyone is that lucky or that blessed, not lucky. Not everyone is that blessed. Some people really do want to lose that weight and they just can't do it, you know? And sometimes it's not because of discipline. Sometimes it's not because of what they eat. Sometimes it's just hormonal or it's something else, you know? And so there is a graciousness involved in that because I understand, like, whenever I see people that are, like, overweight and, like they want to lose weight, I'm like, dude, I felt that. I've been there, you know? I was, like, over 200-something pounds. Like, I feel you, you know? But at the same time, like, I want to help them out, you know? And, you know, what worked for me may not work for them. But at the same time, I feel for them. And I want them to understand that, like, there's hope in that, like just because it's not evident, you can still have faith in that, that the next life will be better than this, and I always remember that God was always there, even if I make a mistake and I eat a citrusy meal, whatever, right? Like, it's just how it is. I learn my lesson and I go on. So if the Bible's arguments aren't having an effect on you, a lot of times it's because you don't have very much faith. And faith is very massively important because you have to trust what Jesus says in order to believe it. It doesn't mean that you just do it blindly, because, that's what discipline is about. Like, it's about reading, it's about praying, it's about fellowship, and having your brothers and sisters together and in fellowship. Iron strengthens iron, right? You strengthen your brother, you strengthen your sister, and together you go through it and you come out stronger. All right, last question. All right, go ahead and choose someone to answer that. Jaden.
Well, we can focus and pay more attention to the Bible, and we can probably find ways to get close to God by going to church, doing things that with the community that allow us to strengthen ourselves. Because, like you said, iron strengthens iron.
Yeah. All right, thank you. In conclusion, you can write this down. We should search for the main point of the passage and meditate on that truth, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. So it kind of just ties right back into it, right? I won't go into one of the things I wanted to go into. It was really cool. If you want to kind of just write this down, Matthew 10, 16 to 23 is actually cross-referenced in Luke 21, 12 to 21. That's a lot of twos and ones, right? And so if you ever want to take a look and see, it's super similar. And the difference is that it talks directly about the destruction of Jerusalem. And so if you want to search in history, it's pretty cool. All right, let's close this. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can all just learn more about your word. I pray that Kevin would just get better from his COVID positive testing, and I just hope that he feels better, and I pray that he'd make a full recovery and test negative. I also pray for the people at YSMP. Hope they have a really good time. Hopefully they bond together, and they're just forging even better friendships with one another, and brotherhood and sisterhood with each and every one of the people that they help. I pray this on your name. Amen.